TeenSpeak. Empowering today's youth. The purpose of TeenSpeak is to allow teens a safe space to share stories and strategies around challenges and inspire other teens on how to meet their own challenges or make their mark in our world. Some of our guests may have done some inspiring things that may not resonate with everyone's views, be it personal or political. This is not a political podcast, and though we have our own personal views, our guests do not necessarily reflect our views. They are simply here to share a story and experience in hopes it inspires others to be the best version of themselves and make the impact they desire in the world.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be tuning in from. I am Antoine Thompson, or Coach T, and this is TeenSpeak, empowering today's youth. And my sidekick and trusted colleague is Keith Sinzer, who happens to be in New York. How are we doing today, Keith?
I'm doing great. Always good to be with you, my friend.
Oh, likewise. Well, today we have a young man that I've known for probably 7 years. When he started middle school with our nonprofit JLT Fieldhouse. And I've actually watched this young man mature from middle school to where he is now, a senior in high school. And he's gone through so many challenges in his life, but he's been so resilient and he has overcome so much. And I'm actually going to let him share a little bit about the nickname he has, because it's one that he found for himself. And I am beyond delighted to welcome Caleb Smith to TeenSpeak. How you doing today, Caleb?
I'm doing good, Coach. How you guys doing today? Nice to meet you, Keith.
You too, Caleb. Great to meet you.
Yeah, we're doing great, man. Always a pleasure to see you. And for those that don't know, we're also doing this via video. When I first saw Caleb, I'm asking him where his hair is, because he's always had long hair, and now it's all gone. So I don't know if that's a sign that you're like you're trying to impress some girl. I know you got a girlfriend. You had it for like forever, right?
Nah, I don't. I don't at the moment.
Yeah, you kicked her to the curb. Okay, that's okay. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
yeah. I just cut the hair. It was just getting too long. You know what I'm saying? When you first met me, like I had really long hair, long hair. I cut it once, probably like ninth grade, and then it was getting long again. I just reset it. My mom cuts my hair, so.
Oh, your mom's cutting your hair now. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I always let her cut my hair because I just figure, she's been doing it my whole life, and she's not she's pretty good at it, but one day she won't be around to cut my hair, so I figure I just let her cut it while she's here.
You gonna let me do it after that, or?
Yeah, we'll talk about it. I see the work you've done on yours, so.
What'd you say, Keith?
I said, does he look like he's had much experience cutting hair?
I've had a lot of experience cutting hair. That's why I keep it like this.
Looks like he cuts his hair often, actually.
Yeah. Well, Caleb, I actually want to really just kind of get into the first thing is kind of your process from the time you started at JLT Fieldhouse till I guess that really last summer, because you've gone from being a participant to actually being a counselor and a coach, and kind of what you've learned through that process.
Okay, so I started playing basketball. Really, growing up, I didn't really much have a liking for basketball until I was in like seventh grade. Seventh grade is when I really felt like I wanted to play basketball, and getting into it. That's kind of already a late age to kind of want to get into it and play basketball. At least on for wanting to play for your school. Most kids around me had grown up playing basketball their whole lives, and I didn't. So I started JLT Fieldhouse. Do you remember how I actually started coming to JLT? It was just because I went to Salisbury Academy, right?
And then you started coming to the clinics. Yep, that's how you found out.
Yeah, so I started coming to clinics. I think I started with a few private lessons, and then I kind of worked myself into the clinics by basically through just, really just having full faith in Coach T's program and really listening to what he told me. I went from knowing nothing at all about basketball or how to play basketball to being, a solid player, a starter as on my middle school team. And then I was a player going into high school. I played AAU basketball. I essentially was able to catch up, with everyone that was my age. Also that I was just a student of the game too. I just love basketball. I love to read about it. There's one basketball team. There's a big basketball team, and then there's another basketball team, but it's a small basketball team. I played for the small basketball team, and everybody else on the we're talking travel ball here, not school ball. and everyone else that came up in my school played for the big basketball team. So which I didn't care about it. I was just happy to play basketball. But as early as eighth grade, I was playing. I would already find myself coaches telling me like, "Oh, I don't know how you do it over there at this organization or team you play at, but over here where we play at, this is how we play." You know what I'm saying? I kind of felt just is it ostracized? Is ostracized a good word for that situation?
You
I
could
don't
have
know.
been, yeah, they could have made you
Yeah,
feel
I'm
that
not.
way.
I'm working on my English, but but yeah, and I didn't get much play time at all. I didn't play at all, which is no problem to me. Playing at all, but I felt like and a lot of people around me, Coach T himself, my parents, peers felt like maybe I should have been playing, maybe I shouldn't have. But either way, that's no. I went into high school. This whole time I was going to field house. I think when I got to high school, I would go to practice. I would leave. I would come to you. And then on weekends I was with you. But yeah, so I played my freshman year. My freshman year I think was probably like I felt like it was my best year for basketball. Like I did great. I was doing great in the camps all summer, the field house camps. Like I felt really confident coming in. I came in my freshman year. I was let's see, we had tryouts. I made it. Like after first cuts, I already knew the coach told me, "Hey, like, yeah, you're on the team." Went in. We played our first two games of the season. I remember we played the first game of the season. I got in. I was getting kind of garbage time minutes, like kind of before halftime or fourth quarter. I would get in. I would do something. I would get in, score a little. One time I got in, I think I had a block and a layup. One time I got in, I had a jump shot. It was in our home gym, so everyone went crazy. So I remember it. Um, and I remember people telling me at that time, I didn't say this for myself. This is just something people told me. They could be 100% wrong, but I remember people be telling me, hey, besides this one other player that I was in my grade that was like, he was a really good player, whatever. Everyone was talking about him. You're the best player coming into our school. That's what people would be telling me. Some coaches, some just were my peers, and I was like, okay, I was grateful for that. Played a game against Pine Lake Prep. It's like a prep school. I don't know what their deal is, but I remember I got in against them. I got good minutes against them. I had like 8 points, one rebound, one assist. And my name was on the Twitter or whatever. I was at that point I was leading the freshmen in scoring. But after that, my coach just kind of just completely just stopped playing me. Like 100% stopped playing me. And I'll never forget after this, I'll let you guys talk. I know I've been talking for a minute, but I remember this one moment. We were playing this school near us, and one of our starters had made like a terrible mistake. So my coach puts me in. We're on defense when he puts me in. Boom, I go in, we're on defense. We get a steal. It didn't have anything to do with me, but we got a steal, a little fast break. We scored 2 points on the other end, and we come down to, back to defense, and my coach takes me out and puts back in the same starter that he took out, like put me in for him. This is all in one possession. So I'm thinking I must have did something. And I don't usually talk back to my coach at all, but I asked him, I was like, hey coach, I was like, what did I do wrong? And he told me, he was like, sit down and shut the F up. So I went and sat down at the end of the bench, but I'll never really like forget that. My passion for it just kind of went away at some point. And I think at
Yeah.
some point you got to realize too, when the game just isn't for you anymore. Whenever the things that you've learned, you can turn around and, help other people. Like I wasn't ever able to put my, maybe put some of the things that me and you worked on in the gym, for hours and hours. Maybe I didn't ever get the time to put that to use like on the court, but I can still put that to use. I remember everything you told me, like I can turn around and tell, like teach kids just like you would teach me.
So obviously the one thing resonated with me is, sharing about, coach telling you to sit the F down.
Yeah.
Like, was that a defining moment for you?
Yeah, it kind of was. Like I kind of just realized it kind of just became like I was almost like, I was like, wow, this is really like a joke to me, because I'm really here. Another thing too, I'll share with you, this same coach, how at the end of practices, some coaches will have players shoot free throws and they'll pick someone off the line. He'll shoot a free throw. If he misses, everyone runs. It's kind of like a team building thing. Like, okay, you got to make the free throw. If not, your whole team runs for it. It's a very common thing. I've seen it my whole life. I remember it was around the same time that I was trying to work on free throws. So I remember I would go to my coach. I'd be like, hey, coach, I'd be like, after practice today, can I shoot the free throw? I'm trying to work on shooting free throws because I get into games and I miss them, you know? And, you know, me, I'm thinking that's what a coach would love to hear from a player. You know what I'm saying? I want him to put me under pressure. And he would tell me every time, I'll get to you when I get to you. I never once, my whole career, I played for 2 years. I never got to shoot that free throw, you know, like ever.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was a defining moment. I was like, wow, I'm really here, you know, actually working. Like I'm, you know, going to workouts, trying to listen to my coach. And it doesn't really matter, you know, because I didn't, you know, and I'm not saying this is why or why not, but I mean, I didn't play for that big team, you know, I didn't play under that big organization, you know, so I didn't have anyone really I didn't have anyone really vouching for me, you know, so he basically like at certain moments, he kind of did have my career, you know, or
In his
in his
hands.
hands, you know,
Yeah.
and didn't care.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually going to give a little context to some of
Mhm.
what you shared, Caleb, because I
Yeah,
think
please
it will
do.
be
Please
helpful
do.
for the listeners. So when Caleb's talking about him working up to, wanting to be that player, he's putting himself out there, letting the coach know, hey, I want to be that guy. I want to be that guy.
Mhm.
Caleb adopted a mentality and an identity. He had an identity shift over the 3 or 4 or 5 years. It turned into one word because I wanted him to understand, hey, in order to be where you want to be, you have to be this one thing, and he became that. Caleb, you want to tell him what that one word is?
Yeah, it was relentless. Well, it's
Relentless.
Mr. Relentless. Yeah, that's what it started
Yeah.
as, but it just ended up with relentless. Yeah.
Yeah, relentless. And that's what he exercised every time we worked out. So what he's sharing is his frustration of all that hard work you put in the hours upon hours upon hours, and all you ever want is an opportunity. And then when a coach doesn't even not only give you the opportunity but disrespects you in that process,
Mhm.
it's demoralizing, for your confidence and things of that nature. But really appreciate you sharing that part. Keith, I don't know if you want to add anything else to that.
Yeah, well, I was just, just a question, right? Like, I don't know, maybe he's going to listen to this, right?
Mhm.
What do you want to say to him? Like now that years later, right? Like thinking
You
back and
know, and it's funny because years later, he acts like he's kind of like, you know, a person to me. You know, he comes up to me, oh, hey, how you doing? How your grades? Oh, how's this? How's this? He tries to like pull me to the side and give me advice and stuff, you know, and I'm like, you know, like we had a relationship like that and we didn't, you know, like we didn't. I felt like he hated me, you know. I mean, I put up with it. I never like was disrespectful to him. I put up with it because I always thought like, hey, maybe if I stick to this, you know, I'll get to where I want to be one day when it comes to playing basketball. But I mean, yeah, there's a lot I want to say to him. But I mean, if you knew the guy yourself, you know, you would know that it's not even worth to say it. You know, like it's like it's just if you really knew the guy, it just you know what I mean.
now
But
listen,
yeah,
I
there's a
mean,
lot.
it's not to say it for him to hear. It's more for you to
Yeah,
just get it off your chest and, you know,
yeah,
have some because listen, that's it's nothing worse than having a defining moment like that
mm,
changes the trajectory of like what you might be thinking or some passion or dream that you have, right? So
yes, sir.
I guess the question is like, so because of that, right? Like,
Mm.
do you have any regrets about that? Or can you can you get back on that path or like where's your head around all that?
That path in terms of like just playing basketball, or that path in terms of what I just
The
want
rela-
to like.
Playing ball or like you said, you're working with Coach T, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's a great way to take that passion and maybe you
yeah,
couldn't do it for yourself, but you found a way to help others and still do something you love, right? So how can you keep that passion despite somebody trying to
yeah.
take that away from you? And at the same time, do you have any regrets or
Hmm.
can you see that defining moment as an opportunity for growth?
I think how you could keep that passion is, you know what I mean? Because I mean, I still have that love. You know, at the end of the day, I love basketball. I love to watch basketball, and I also have a love, you know, for Coach T and everything he does in his organization. You know, I mean, I love that. I want to be a part of that. I believe in that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that passion can be there as long as that love is there. You know, I can do the same things I could do with my basketball mind for myself. I could do for, you know, kids coming up. You know, I can. You know, I remember so much of the things that Coach T has told me over the years, and I mean, even when and the opportunities that he's given me, I've coached it was fourth and it was third and fourth, and then seventh and
Yeah.
eighth. You know, we did
Yep.
good. I loved it. You know, so I think that's how you keep the passion. You know, I mean, the love has just got to be there. And then I do have regrets. I don't know if when it comes to basketball, that I really do have any regrets. I think the only thing that I really could have did if I really wanted to really pursue my basketball career just for myself, you know, and go for myself, I think the biggest change I could have made was just changing schools, trying to go to another school somewhere and make my name up there. I think, but otherwise, you know, I'm grateful for every minute I spent in the gym with Coach T. My biggest regrets are like, you know, they're kind of off the court, had nothing to do with basketball. Because like I said, like a lot of my close friends, they passed away. You know, one of them to a car wreck, one to a drug overdose, one to suicide, and like none of those things are really necessarily my fault. But you know, whenever with the absence of a person, when someone passes away before they should, you know, you always feel like there's something you could have did, especially if you were in position to do something. You know, like when you're someone's close friend, you're in a position to make a difference. You know, to do something. So I think that's where most of my regrets lie at. You know, I mean, I'm some things I feel like are unfortunate. You know, like maybe if I had a different coach, like if Coach T was my coach, you know what I mean? Maybe I could have been great, but
You are a
you
great
know,
dude.
I always say when I say great, I just mean like in terms of my basketball. You know, my stats could have been as good as I thought they would have been. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I could have averaged as many points per game as I wanted to. You know.
Yeah. One of the things that a lot of people don't know, Caleb made reference to losing some close friends, and we're very thankful that you weren't where you were supposed to be at a
Mhm.
certain time.
Like I said, so the first I lost now at the age of 18, you know, I've lost a couple of my close friends, but first there was a December 27th, I was like 16. So this was my sophomore year. We were actually me and my friends had made the decision to go to a party, which you know, isn't really a good decision, you know what I'm saying? But you know, compared to a lot of kids my age, you know, there are a lot of kids my age that make that decision and worse every day. You know what I mean? Like we weren't making any better or worse decision than a lot of people, you know. But I think it's important to like realize that like small decision like that could lead to something fatal, you know. But anyways, and it was just late. It was late. We were leaving the party. It was probably like 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning. It was late. And when we had rode there, we rode in a car. It was like an SUV, and we rode. We stuffed a bunch of people in it. So there were two people in the front, and there were four people in the back. I was one of those people in the back. So when whatever we go to this party, we're leaving, and I jump back in the same car with my friend. My friend Jace was in there, my friend Charles was in there, and my friend Felipe was in there, and then there was someone else that was driving. And I jumped in that car, and they were some of them were kind of they've been drinking or whatever, but they turned around and they looked at me and they were like, hey, because there was another friend that had met us at the party, and they turned around, they looked at me, and they said, they were like, hey, why don't you just jump out, go ride with him. There's not enough room in here. Just go ride with him, bro. It'll be all right. And I was just, everything's moving fast. We're all trying to get home. I jump out and I hop in the other car. I got dropped off. I woke up the next morning and, but they never made it back to my house. They crashed about 5 minutes down the road. My friend Felipe, he passed away. He lost his life. And then my two other friends, they were in critical condition. They suffered traumatic brain injuries, and they're both my friend Charles, he's still alive to this day. My friend Jace, he survived. He was kind of bedridden for 3 months. He survived. He came back from that, but later on he ended up killing himself because of just like mental struggles with his traumatic brain injury. He ended up committing suicide, which they say it could have been accidental that he did that, but I don't know. But that was probably like the closest person to me in life at the time, when he did that. That was on Mother's Day of this year.
Yeah, no, I'm just sitting with that for a minute.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
it's a lot.
that is a lot, and that's a lot to go through as a
Mm-hmm.
teenager age, right? To have that happen, three friends especially, right? To lose three,
Mm-hmm.
but, this might be a hard question to answer, but I think it's an important
Go
question.
ahead. No,
The
go
truth
ahead.
is,
Fire away.
listen, the truth is, I know teens that have been through that, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
my daughter lost her best friend to cancer. And to this day,
Mm-hmm.
everything she does, everything, he's her inspiration. He thinks about what would he say, right? to her if he was here. And like decisions she makes in life are so tied to their relationship and who he was. So there's definitely something there, right? Like, so she decided like I need to keep his legacy alive. Like I'm going to live my life, for you, right? Like what, as horrific those things are and having to deal with it and go through it and just the range of emotions that brings, right?
Mm-hmm.
What did it teach you? And, how can you take those traumatic experiences and turn them into a growth opportunity, as hard as that is, considering the nature of it?
Yeah. And sometimes, sometimes myself, I don't even know the answer to that question. I feel like it's all just like being dumped on me, and sometimes it's just, it's hard when someone's that close to you. You think of them every day, you know what I mean? And a lot of things, everything will remind you of them. But I think, like I said, just using like the inspiration, and the fact that, because especially because those people, they leave things behind, like they leave, like, for example, like my friend that we were talking about that committed suicide. His mother, she started an organization for traumatic brain injuries, and she's just like giving her whole life to that, and that inspires me, like I know as much as I'm feeling it every single day, as much as I cry, I know she's feeling it 10, 100 times worse, crying is much more. And even me myself, my whole life since I was 9 years old, I've struggled. I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder when I was 9 years old. And later on in life, they found out I was bipolar. But myself across my whole life, I've had thoughts, at times that maybe I wanted to kill myself. I wanted to do things to myself. And when I met Jace, I remember one time I was just breaking down. I was just going through, kind of just having a breakdown, kind of a crying spell. I was crying, and he was living with me at the time. I was trying to, kind of hide it from him. But he had kind of, caught wind of it. He came in one day and he grabbed my arm. And he was like, "Look, bro," he was like, "I love you, bro." He was like, "I feel like my purpose in life is to help you." That's what he told me when he was alive. And after, I had never met his mom, because him and his mom, they'd had kind of, at the time I met him and knew him and his mom, they had kind of a strained relationship. She loved him to death. He loved her to death. He just didn't live at the house. I never met his mom until after he passed away. But when I did meet his mom after the funeral, after I went to the funeral, I went over to her house and she was like, she told me that at times he was scared that, I may leave him like that. So she, it broke her heart that that's how it ended up. But that's what inspires me, is that, like that's just not the path that's written in life for me, right now, is that, like it's been around me, it happened to my best friend, but like I can't, like there's other kids that are just like me, like I really know what it feels like, to feel hopeless, to just feel like there's nothing good going on in your head, to feel
Like,
like, like, and
yeah,
I'm sure there's
it's
people, and I'm sure, one more thing, I'm sorry, and I'm sure there's
you're good.
people throughout my life that I might encounter briefly that will see me and see what I'm doing in the moment, or see how I'm acting in the moment, and think something like that would never, you know what I mean? Think that's, oh yeah, he's not feeling what I'm feeling. He doesn't feel, you know what I mean? So I
No,
think everybody's, go ahead.
no, go ahead. You say everybody what?
I was just gonna say, I think everybody, everybody's important. Like the things, everybody has something going on. Everybody's fighting the battle. That's basically all I was saying. But go ahead.
Yeah, no. You're 100% right. But I think everything you're describing, Caleb, is one of the reasons I think it's important for you to share your experiences is resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
Resiliency. You're talking about people that are closest to you, next to your parents and your grandparents, who I know very well,
Yeah.
and to lose them and you still be on the path that you're on. I've seen your maturation process. I've seen how much you've
Mm-hmm.
developed. I couldn't be prouder of you. And um, I have to gather myself here because
Yeah.
go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, well, just to back onto what you said about resiliency, that is such an important trait, and unfortunately, it's a hard one to teach. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's those lessons, those hard lessons we don't want, that we don't expect, that are thrust on us, that kind of force it upon us. But when you can come out of it, that sense of resiliency, like that's the gift those people left behind for you.
Yeah,
Like that's the inspiration. Like them not being here anymore, gave you the ability to have that resiliency,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
you'll
And
always
that's,
have that.
you know,
They'll always be there with you. You know, because listen, this is not the first time in your life you're going to have things that are tough to face, right? But you do, they'll be your strength, right? You'll remember like
mhm.
these people, like, it's because of them that I have this now. And you can take that with you in the rest of your life and there are so many people along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Yes, sir.
reason I had to kind of take my pause here is Caleb understands this. I love this young man like a son, and I've seen what he's gone through and how much he's grown. And it's I mean, it just inspires me to know that, Keith, you and I can have the impact on young people like that. And this young man is one of the reasons I started that nonprofit, and to see where he is today and see how much he's grown. It's just one of those things that there's a lot of pride I'm feeling right now of how much you've grown, Caleb, and how much you've overcome. And here you are still on path to, you said you missed school a lot, but here you are. You told me right before we went on air that you're on path to graduate this year. I couldn't be prouder of you. And like I said, it's just one of those things. And me, I'm one of those people. I always tell you exactly how I feel. I don't hide my emotions, but
Mhm.
you and I've been through a lot, and I will share
Yeah.
with everybody. Caleb invited my wife and I out for his 15th birthday dinner with his mom and his grandparents. And the reason I share that just kind of gives you an idea of how strong our relationship is
Mhm.
and how much we've grown together. And like I said, that's one reason I wanted to have you as a guest
Yeah.
with Keith and I, because I'm just really proud of what you've done and what you've accomplished.
Yeah, yes, sir. And I'm proud. I mean, I'm proud too. I'm proud to always, I'm always gonna be proud to be a part of Fieldhouse. I'm always gonna be proud to be relentless. I wear a necklace, a dog tag all the time that says relentless on it. I have a tattoo on my chest right here that says relentless, like it's really me, and I credit Coach Antoine to help me realize that. I mean, I'm always.
Yeah. Keith, you
You
want
know,
to?
you
Mhm.
said something beautiful before, which I don't even think you realized the impact of what you said. You said something about like you were diagnosed with depressive disorder, right? And like how
Mhm.
like people don't always know, right? That's the thing with
Mhm.
mental health, right?
Yeah.
That's mental health. It's easy to see somebody who's physically disabled, right?
Right.
But you can't see somebody who's struggling mentally. And like you said, everybody is at one point or another. We all are, myself
Mhm.
included, Coach T included. I'm sure, right? We all
Yeah.
struggle with our mental health at one point in our lives, and I think it's beautiful to recognize that. But what's most important is if you do know that, how do you use empathy to understand that with other people, right? Because that bully or that that coach, right? I mean, like I don't know this guy, but like whatever, this guy might be.
Yeah.
But you know what? Who the hell knows what's going on in his life? Maybe,
Right.
maybe he's not a happy person. Maybe it's a silent struggle, mental health. And I think that when you said that, it really resonated with me because I think it's so important to have empathy and understand that when other people are not being the social norm that we'd expect,
Yeah.
before we judge or before we, it's always important to just have some empathy and sometimes ask questions. And I don't want to take your time, but I want to just share this really quick story because I think it's really
Sure.
important.
Go ahead.
I had two girls in a workshop I was doing, and they were both high school seniors. But when they were sophomores, they shared a story how they used to always meet, like they would meet for lunch. They'd go out and they were able to walk to the pizza place. And one day, this girl, she would cancel on her like the morning of, like, yeah, I can't go today, can't go today. And this other girl just dropped her. It was like, you know what, I'm done with you. I don't want anything to do. Like, made it about her and
Yeah.
dropped her. It turned out she was anorexic and she was struggling with
Mhm.
eating disorder and didn't want to go eat because she didn't want to be seen eating and throwing up and all that. She just didn't want to. Actually, it's bulimia, I believe, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
believe it.
Yeah.
and she, so she ended up in like an inpatient for like a couple of weeks, like to deal with it. And you know, that girl asking the one question, "Hey, are you okay?" Right? Instead
Mhm.
of like just she's being a jerk or she's blowing me off. Like, are you okay? Could have been the difference between this girl being like, no, I have bulimia, I'm struggling, and getting her the help she needed so she wouldn't end up in an inpatient place, right? She could have got
Yeah.
parents. Just that one question, right? But the empathy wasn't there. It was all about me, me, me. So
Yeah.
it's so important to understand that when people are struggling or people are being a certain way, always think, is there a reason? People are not innately that bad or that mean. There's something going on.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
Yes, sir.
Well, Caleb, we can't thank you enough for not only coming on, but being open, honest, and really being an open book, because we know that your story and your experiences are going to impact a lot of people. And I
Yeah.
don't just mean your peers. I'm talking about parents. I'm talking about educators, because there are a lot of things that Keith picked up on that I think other listeners are going to pick up on as well. And these are things that have to be discussed. And people shouldn't have to go through the struggles that you've had to go through. I'm talking about the athletic aspect of it, be
Mm-hmm.
given a
Yes,
fair
sir.
opportunity to showcase your skills. But that's a topic for another day. But I just want to tell you that, like I said before, I appreciate you coming on, being open and
Mm-hmm.
honest, because this is why we started this podcast, because we want your generation to have a voice and not be hesitant to come on and share however you want to share it, because there's somebody that's going to go like, man, I like that Caleb dude, man. I've been
Yeah.
there. And next thing you know, you may
Yeah.
get you some friends, more
Yeah. Well,
friends,
I
I
hope
should say.
so. I hope so. And I appreciate you guys having me. I love to be back anytime, to help out any way I can.
Sure.
It's a privilege, pleasure, everything good. It's everything good to be on here and be able to work with you guys.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
You should write the coach
yep.
a letter and thank him for being such an ass.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
I
Tell them
will
you
one
learned
day.
something.
If it wasn't for him, you wouldn't
Yeah.
be resilient, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
you wouldn't be relentless. So you know what,
Yeah.
like,
You made me. Yeah. I love that, Keith. You're
look,
absolutely right. I think and you wait till you
Hmm.
graduate,
yeah,
because you're
yeah,
going to
yeah,
show
Yeah.
them. Yeah. Wait till you
Oh
graduate.
yeah.
You write him a letter, say, hey, just wanted to tell you, thank you
Oh
for the
yeah.
experience. I learned a lot. And he'll know what that
Yeah.
means. He'll know what that
Oh
means,
yeah.
because he'll know he didn't
Hmm.
really invest in you. But that's a lot of what we talked about. Well, listen, before we go, Caleb, I have a few questions I want to ask. They're kind of fun questions, not
Okay.
hard.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
it's not school. They relax. They're not
Yeah.
going, not pass or fail. Um, who has been your biggest influence in your life, and why? I
in
know the
my
answer to this one, I think.
in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my life it was a bit 100% definitely be Coach T. 100% in my whole life.
No, that's not who I thought it was going to be. Oh
No,
my
I'm just
gosh.
playing. I'm just
I
playing.
was going to say
I'm
that.
just
No, that's not. No. Thank you,
I'm
but
just
no.
no, in my
No.
whole life,
Thank you, but no.
it's a lot of different reasons, yeah, but definitely the most influential person across my whole life, 100% my mom. I
Right.
mean, definitely
Yeah.
my mom. If you would exclude her, the question might be a little hard. You might be up there top 10. Maybe, but but yeah, definitely my mom. My mom never gave up on me, not even for a second. My mom never even let me down, not once. My mom never even once did my mom go less than 100% for me. So
Yeah, no, I can attest to that
yeah,
100%. That's why I say I knew that was going to be the answer, because your
yeah,
mom's an amazing
yeah.
lady, and all of
I
that
know.
you've been through, not
Yeah,
just physically, emotionally, socially. I mean, all of that. She's always stood by you.
yeah,
We've had a lot of conversations about it that you don't know about, but I've always kept her abreast of your progress. And I said,
yeah.
just watch him. You'll see. And obviously, she's done that. So my next question is, what is your biggest strength, and how do you utilize it as a superpower?
My biggest strength, how have I utilize it as a superpower? I don't know. That's a question that probably I would have to take some more thinking to find the perfect answer. But I think what we already kind of talked about it today. I mean the stuff I've been through. Is kind of my biggest strength in the fact that I went through some of my weakest moments. And then I can be honest about it later. I think that's a strength. I mean I
Yeah, no, that's
like
definitely a
just
strength. No, for sure, for sure.
vulnerability. That's your
yeah.
strength.
You know what I
You know
mean,
what?
like yeah, vulnerability.
I
That's a good word.
Yeah, I hate when people make comments on men crying.
Hmm.
I'm like, I think men that don't cry are the weak ones.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean, I think it's just not even about men crying. I think it's just sometimes people might see something and they just kind of have a preset on what can apply to you and what can't. Like okay, yeah, you look like that, so you can't be crying. But maybe if some, you know what I mean. Like I think it's something like that. Like kind of it's kind of the thing of oh yeah, someone will ask you, are you okay? But they're expecting to hear something specific from you. They're not really ready to hear what's wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And yeah, and you're absolutely right, Keith, about that. That's a great point. So this next one, what is your biggest failure, and what lesson did you learn from it?
My biggest failure. My biggest failure, I'm not sure, I never thought about like my biggest failure in life. I think one of my big failures is that kind of, academically you could say I kind of like dropped the ball, like coming out of middle school and elementary school. Like I was like a top student, like AIG student, like front of my class, all good grades, like nominated for everything. And in high school I kind of was like not that at all. I'm like a very, very below average student, so I think that's probably my biggest failure, is that I have less to I don't have as much to show like academically as I know I could. You know what I mean? Like as I really know I could. And I think what I learned from it is that, every second counts. I wasted a lot of time doing a lot of stuff that I didn't think would really matter in the end. I just wasted a lot of time and then, made some decisions that, while maybe they weren't like terrible decisions or great decisions compared to any of my peers or compared to anyone around me. Like they led to, some people losing their lives, some people this, some people that. So I think that's probably my biggest regret. Not my biggest regret, biggest failure.
That's beautiful share.
Yeah, it's deep, man. That's why I want to have you, man, because you have no filter. You lay it all out there, and that's what a lot of young people need to do is just be open and honest with it. So my last question for you. This is a really fun one, so you get to be real creative on this one. So if you could have one superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh, one superpower. Okay. It would probably, I mean, if we're trying to just be realistic, it would be something like mind control or something like,
Yeah, that sounds like
something
you.
like that. Because
That sounds
with
like
mind
you.
control, I could really control. I could keep everybody safe off the road when I'm driving. I could, hey, you stay in your lane. You know what I mean? Stuff like that, like little stuff like that.
Okay. All right.
What could you not get with mind control? Or I want to fly because I
Who
would love
wouldn't
to
want to do
fly.
that, right? I got you.
Fly,
Yeah.
fly, or you can teleport. Is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah, you go. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Cause
Yeah.
because flying kind of seems like more of an experience, But then you might get bored of it. But how people go for a long drive just to clear their
Yeah.
mind. You go for a long
Yeah.
fly.
Fly. Yeah. In the snow and the rain too.
It might be pretty cool. Yeah, maybe. I don't know how it works up there.
Oh me. Oh man, goodness. Keith, you got any final thoughts you want to share with Caleb?
Just, I really appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate the vulnerability and the honesty, because it's really hard to do that, right? Especially knowing like this is a podcast and people are going to listen.
Mhm.
But what I do want to offer to you is, by doing that, like, you've just given permission to so many other teens that hopefully are listening to this, that will want to come on and share their story and share what they did and how they were relentless and how they were resilient and came back from some type of adversity. So just you sharing your story and being open and honest about it and vulnerable is really, to me, that's what this podcast is about. And that vulnerability, you just, like, you may not realize it, but there's definitely going to be people listening who you just impacted, and you gave permission to. Maybe they won't come on here, but you gave permission to go talk to someone about something that
I hope so. I really hope so. It impacts someone in some way.
For sure.
Down the line.
Positive, you will.
Yeah, I definitely think you've done that. No, there's no doubt about that. You definitely done that, Caleb. And I don't want to see Mo sign off, because I'll end up boohooing again, because I get a little emotional when I start talking about you, because I'm just so proud of you. So, I have nothing but love for you, my man.
Yeah. Yep, nothing but love for you too, Coach.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Caleb. I'll send you $20 next week. Okay.
All right. All right.
He's going to tell you, I think it's every episode, I'm on this $20.
He'd be poor by the time we finish.
Really?
That's why we got to monetize it. That's why we got to monetize.
I send you $20.
Just swing by the gym on Sunday. I'll give it to you.
Well, I'll pay you back. I'll pay you back by your birthday or something.
I know you will. So, anyway. All right, Keith, you want to send us off here before we go? Caleb, thanks again, my man.
Yes, thanks. No thanks for being here. And as always, thank you for listening. I hope that these amazing, teenagers that we bring on here share something that, other teens can really, grasp and learn something from and be inspired. That's why we're doing what we're doing. And as always, the only limitations you have are the ones you place on yourselves.
And just be you, because everybody else is already taken.
If you are looking for a youth empowerment and leadership coach that can help your teenager find their true north through education, support, and inspiration, you need look no further. You can reach Coach Keith Senzer through his website, shiftyourpower.com. Coach T can be reached through his website as well, coachtscorner.com.